Hey drummers, Daniel Glass here. I want to welcome you to this special video series all about groove. And I want to start by asking if you've ever heard any of the following statements.
A killer groove can't be taught. It's a God-given talent. You've either got it or you don't. A great groove requires 10,000 hours in the practice room.
I've been in this business for 30 years and I've been hearing these statements forever. They never seem to go away. So maybe there's some truth to them. I mean, most of us are pretty good at keeping time, but how do you get to the level of players like Steve Gadd, Steve Jordan, Bernard Purdie, Jeff Porcaro, Dave Weckl, Nate Smith, Ash Sohn, Benny Greb, Cindy Blackman? You know who I'm talking about. These drummers have what I call the golden groove. It's a groove that's so powerful, so riveting, that when they start playing, you're just completely sucked in. You put down whatever you're doing and you give them your full attention. Now, conventional wisdom would have us believe that drummers who play like this must somehow be different from the rest of us, mere mortals. They must be more special. They must have been blessed with superhuman levels of talent that we regular people can never hope to attain, even if we practiced 8 hours a day. So that's it? If we're not blessed with this special talent, are the rest of us just completely screwed? Well, like I said, I've been hearing these statements for 30 years, and honestly, to me, if a drummer's main priority is to be able to play a great groove that feels good, then why is there so much misinformation about this topic? Why are the nuances of groove so hard to teach? And why isn't there some kind of system that offers drummers a pathway to develop a deep, powerful, relaxed, natural sounding groove that would actually help them with their number one priority and therefore make them more employable? Well, in 30 years, I never found that system, so I created my own. In fact, I've been using this system with my private students for over a decade. I realized a long time ago that when it comes to groove, what matters is not so much what we're doing, but how we're doing it. My goal was to design a clear, simple strategy that anyone could implement, one that addressed those hard-to-teach elements of groove like pulse and pocket. And the best way to do that was to create a learning system that was not based on patterns, but was based on motions. So what do I mean, patterns versus motions? Well, think about all the instructional videos you've watched, the lessons you've taken, the books you've studied from. The vast majority of these all revolve around what you might call a pattern-based system. In this system, we train each arm and leg to play a particular pattern, and then we put these patterns together using something called limb independence. The goal is that each limb can play its pattern independently of the others. Sound familiar? Sure. In a pattern-based system, you typically start with a basic level of independence, and then you gradually add more and more complex variations. The greatest drummers that you see live or on YouTube take this concept to a very high level. Their independence is really developed and they can play very complex patterns. So when we watch these drummers and we study this kind of system, what we logically conclude is, if I'm going to be a good drummer, then I need to put all my time and effort into developing complex patterns. But when it comes to groove, working on patterns doesn't really make sense. I mean, sure, we all need independent skills to be able to play the drums, and there's nothing wrong with being able to do complex patterns. But at its core, a successful groove has less to do with what your arms and legs are doing, and everything to do with how you're connecting with your audience. The audience doesn't care what kind of patterns you're playing. They only care about how your groove makes them feel. They want to feel good, excited, compelled, and a good groove does just that. It creates an irresistible, unstoppable pulse that grabs people by the scruff of their necks and demands that they follow along. If you really think about it, the best grooves offer a transformative experience. They literally take the listener on a journey from A to B. Now, most of us can understand these ideas, but how are you supposed to get them into your playing? How do you turn your groove into a transformative experience? Well, unfortunately, that's where pattern-based systems fail. They don't address these mysterious subjects like pocket and pulse at all. And quite frankly, neither do most teachers, because these concepts are much harder to define in quantifiable ways with quantifiable exercises. So the only solution that a pattern-based system can offer you is, well, more patterns. My name is Daniel Glass, and in 30 years as a professional drummer, author, historian, and educator, I've helped hundreds of drummers of all ages, skill levels, and stylistic approaches supercharge their groove and achieve their goals, whether that means joining their first band, working with better musicians, or making a full-time career in drumming. Frankly speaking, as a teacher, I have never been interested in offering my students a bunch of patterns. My goal has always been much more audacious. I want to transform their understanding of what it means to be a drummer. And the motion-based system that I've developed offers a clear, focused pathway to doing just that. A system based on motions is designed to get you to play with greater fluidity and relaxation. It fixes long-term tension, and it helps you to develop new levels of balance and comfort behind the drums. In essence, it helps you understand not just what you're doing, but how you're supposed to do it. I've been a professional drummer since 1991, when I moved to Los Angeles and got involved with an amazing band called Royal Crown Revue. We got signed to Warner Brothers Records, released 9 albums, and toured the world many times over. And that led to some cool gigs as a freelancer. Over the years, I've recorded and toured with some really amazing world-class people like Brian Setzer, Bette Midler, even Kiss frontman Gene Simmons. And while my career may read like a success on paper, it certainly did not come without some powerful failures as well. I've been fired from high-profile recording sessions, I've lost some key auditions, and I was even sent home in the middle of a major tour with my tail between my legs. Trust me, it sucked. But in all these cases, I was always given the same reason. It just didn't feel right. And after doing some hard thinking about all of this, I realized I dropped the ball on fulfilling my primary purpose as a drummer. I underestimated the importance of groove. So from that point on, I became totally obsessed with groove. I realized it was the pathway to being 100% employable. I began to study drum history, and I discovered that the greatest drummers of every era, from jazz to rock to hip hop, were all utilizing the same principles to create their grooves. In working with teachers like Freddie Gruber and Bruce Becker, I learned how to reverse engineer the drumming process, and I discovered that motion and pocket are intimately connected. Over time, I began to identify the specific mechanisms that would help me explain concepts like pulse and feel to students. The answer is always in how we move as drummers. In the early 2000s, I began to share my big picture ideas with the drumming industry. And to date, I've published 5 books and 3 DVDs and presented hundreds of clinics all over the world. I performed at major events like the Percussive Art Society Convention and the Modern Drummer Festival. I created a successful podcast, appeared on major online entities like Drumeo, and developed a substantial following as a thought leader on Facebook, YouTube, and other social media platforms. In my hometown of New York City, where I moved in 2010, I faced one of the most competitive music environments on the planet. Yet, I typically play more than 200 gigs a year. Why? Because my playing compels the audience to pay attention to what's happening on stage. And at the end of the night, my fellow musicians tell me, I love playing with you because it feels so good. In short, I get the call back because of my dedication to the groove. And that obsession with groove crosses over to everything I do as a teacher. So as we're unpacking all this information about groove, maybe you've been having some thoughts about your own drumming. Maybe you're asking, why isn't my playing smoother? Why am I so uncomfortable behind the drums? Why can't I get my speed beyond a certain point? Why do I have so much trouble playing slowly or softly? And worst of all, why do I experience pain when I play? Maybe you've doubled down on your practice time. You've focused harder on independence exercises, fills, chops, patterns, but you still aren't getting any closer to those golden groovers that you're trying to emulate. If this is resonating with you, I fully understand because I've been through it myself. And I can assure you that the motion-based system offers a new way forward that will help you break through the next level. Honestly, it's what I wish I had when I was first starting out as a drummer. I would have avoided so much hassle and heartache. Now, as I said earlier, the motion-based system is actually really simple to learn, and if you implement it correctly, it can have a quick and powerful effect on your drumming. Here are 4 reasons why. Number 1, clarity. You'll get crystal clear about your fundamental role as a drummer. Every exercise you learn will specifically support this role, so you're not just practicing random stuff that may not serve any particular purpose. Number 2, simplicity. Rather than take the typical route of complicated is better, we'll go the other way. We'll slow things down and simplify them to the extreme. In fact, many of the exercises don't involve sticks or pedals at all. Simplifying in this way allows you to overcome the habits that are ingrained in your muscle memory, and it helps you naturally start to feel elements like pulse, flow, and pocket. You won't have to try to make these things happen. Number 3, practicality. All of the knowledge you'll learn is geared towards specific practical outcomes that will make you more employable as a drummer. Number 4, universality. Because this system is based on motions and not patterns, it works for any drummer. I've used elements of the motion-based system with every single one of my students, regardless of their age, skill, or genre. We're talking total beginners to some of the world's biggest rock stars. Think about what a game changer it would be if you had the confidence to walk into any musical situation and take command of the room with just your time feel. Imagine what it would feel like to have a ridiculously deep pocket and a beautiful, natural sound. Imagine feeling more relaxed and balanced behind the drums. Imagine playing at a greater range of tempos with more expressive dynamics. Imagine having the skills to play with better musicians, get better gigs, and impact your audience more deeply. And if you've been struggling for years, imagine how much more you'll enjoy the basic experience of playing the drums when it finally sounds and feels the way that you've always wanted it to. In the next video in this series, I'm going to show you exactly how you can start implementing the motion-based system in your own drumming, and I'll walk you through a simple strategy that you can use right away to start getting results immediately. So be on the lookout for that next video. I've also got some really exciting news for those who are serious about diving into the topic of groove much more deeply. In just a few days, I'll be launching my online course, Finding Your Golden Groove. And I'll be taking a handful of new students through the motion-based system and a whole lot more. Finding Your Golden Groove is literally the best program I've ever created, and I'm super excited to share it with you. This course brings together a massive amount of wisdom that has literally come together from more than a decade of working with my private students. And I should mention that this is the first time I'll be sharing most of this material publicly. Now, as much as I'd like to help everyone work with the motion-based system, I find that I get the best results with my students in a smaller group setting. That way, everybody really gets the help and support that they need. So, spots for Finding Your Golden Groove will be granted on a first-come, first-served basis. If this is something you're interested in, make sure to click on the link under this video and add your name on the early bird notification list. Everyone on this list will get access to registration the night before the program launches to the public. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or a direct message. I'm interested in answering any questions you might have about groove or the motion-based system. As I mentioned before, stay tuned for the next installment in this series because I'll be showing you exactly how to get started with the motion-based system in your own drumming. Thanks, and I'll see you there.